Welcome back to the Get Out of Your Comfort Zone interview series, where we engage thought leaders about the challenges they have had in stepping outside their comfort zones in their lives, and advice they might have for the rest of us, especially for young people considering leadership positions. My name is Andy Molinsky, and today we have a very special guest, Simon Sinek, who is an author, in fact, a New York Times best-selling author and speaker. He has written 4 books, including the 2009 bestseller Start With Why: How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone to Take Action. He is an optimist. And also, you might not know that he is a proud graduate of Brandeis University, where I am a professor currently. So thank you so much, Simon, for being with me here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. So let's jump right in. So I wanted to ask you the same questions that we ask everyone. And the first one's about stepping outside your comfort zone, which, it's a topic that I am interested in. I've written about. It's a topic we also believe is critical for young people venturing into the professional world. So I'd love if you'd be willing for you to share a time when you've had to step outside your comfort zone. What was it like? What was it? What were the challenges? How'd you grapple with them?
I hope that people continuously step out of their comfort zone, both when they're young and as they get older. We don't learn everything. We don't learn anything when things go well and when we're comfortable. The true learning happens when things go wrong and when we're uncomfortable. We're hyper aware and we're often very insecure. And so one of the greatest lessons I have learned, and it helped me be more comfortable being uncomfortable, is that I don't have to know all the answers and I don't have to pretend that I do. When I was younger, I remember thinking that I had to know the answers. My reputation depended on it. When I started my first business when I was 28 years old, I believed I had to know all the answers. And if I didn't, I definitely portrayed that I did because I thought my confidence was the thing that made me a better leader. Nothing could be further from the truth. I learned the hard way when things started to crash in on me. And it was amazing that when I started to have the courage to admit that I don't know things, lots of people rushed in to help. It turns out they've always been there, but they didn't think that I needed it. And it was only when I was open about it did people rush in to help. And let me tell you, if you're going to make yourself uncomfortable, if you're going to try something new or different, the best thing you can do is say, I'm not sure, or I think I need help, or I made a mistake. And the best way to navigate uncomfortable situations is when you feel someone has your back. To navigate an uncomfortable situation alone, lying, hiding, and faking is absolutely nuts, and the stress will be overwhelming. So I'm much more confident these days being uncomfortable and putting myself in uncomfortable situations because I know I have people to the left of me and people to the right of me who will watch out for me.
So that's interesting. So let me ask a follow-up question, if that's okay. So when at some point you made that decision, it sounds like, where initially you felt you had to know the answers, but at some point you just, developed that courage to admit you don't know. Can you take us through that journey a little bit? How did that happen? When did that happen? Was it a flash? Was it an insight? Did it take time? I imagine a lot of people might ideally want to make that transition.
Yeah, I mean, it was a slow decline of pain, quite frankly, because the more I was lying, hiding, and faking, the more stress I put myself under. And the more stress I put myself under, the more I became preoccupied with lying, hiding, and faking about how I didn't feel as in control or as successful or as happy as I portrayed. And it got to the point where I became paranoid, and I didn't want to go to work the next day, and it really eats you alive. And so it really took a friend of mine to come to me and say, I'm worried about you. You're acting differently, for me to come clean and admit that I wasn't happy, especially because superficially my life was good, So that gave me the courage, and that's when I realized I felt a huge weight come off my back, even though the problem wasn't solved. Just that someone said, you're okay, you're safe, I got your back. That's what lifted the weight, and that's what actually gave me the courage to solve the problem. And I realized if I'm ever going to put myself in a situation where I don't know the answers, I'm always going to admit it very quickly, because it'll give me the courage to find solutions rather than pretending that I'm better than I am.
Do you remember the first time you did it?
Yeah, it came shortly after. I mean, that it was that experience that actually set me on the path to discover the thing called the why.
Mm,
Uh, and I remember when I realized what my why was, I realized the business I'd been building, this marketing consultancy, really didn't advance the thing that I believed in.
mm,
It was fun. I mean, I built a business, but it didn't inspire me anymore. And I remember deciding to shut my business down. I got out of my lease. I had an office. I had a contract. I had a lease. I got out of my lease. I paid my penalty for that. Um, um, I told my employees that didn't need them anymore. And all of my friends thought I went out of business, and nothing could be further from the truth. I was more confident than I'd ever been. The decision was much easier. And I also felt that I had more people by my side to support me as I made this very difficult decision to basically start again.
that's interesting. It's interesting. A lot of young people, even younger than you were in that situation, 21, 22-year-olds, they jump into the workplace for initial, first-time jobs. And I think that they probably struggle with a situation that you struggle with, having to portray themselves as if they know the answers, right? Almost like bigger than their britches. How do you advise someone who's young in that position to, like, do they admit that they don't know, because that might be a liability? Do they pretend that they know? Well, that's going to be stressful. Like, where do you fall down? Where do you come down there?
There's something I think magical about confidently admitting you don't know,
Mm,
right? Um, it's what causes the liability is the self-defeatism. What's attractive is confidence. When you walk in and go, I don't know what I'm doing, that's that's not going to go well.
right.
But say, hey, this I'm really good at this. This I need help with.
Mm,
Because you've given me a project, and if I'm honest, I have no idea what I'm doing. So if you could get me some help, that'd be really great. I'd love to sit down. I'd love to talk it through with you. Maybe get some learning. In other words, if you approach it like a student, rather than rather than a wounded soldier, you know, if you approach it like a student, that you're coming in to learn, that not knowing is what every student is. Every class you show up, you don't know until you're taught. And so on the first day of class, who knows everything in the subject? The answer is, I have no clue. You show up like a student. And I believe there's a huge benefit to especially young people showing up to a first or second job as a student. I meet too many young people who are looking for this perfect job, and they don't find it. And so after 3 or 4 months, they quit. And they go to another job. And after 3 or 4 months, they quit. And in just a few years, they've had 4, 5, 6 jobs. And I understand, why would you stay at a job that you don't love? I get it. I preach the same thing. But the problem is, you're building no skills. You're just going from thing to thing to thing. And in 4 or 5 jobs, you've learned nothing. And to approach a job like a student doesn't mean you have to stay there for a lifetime, but you can learn more in a year in an imperfect job than you can in 3 months going from job to job to job. But you have to show up like a student. You have to show up and say, this is imperfect. I'm going to learn why. You're going to show up and say, I'm struggling with my boss. I'm going to learn to be a better leader. You can say, I'm practicing admitting things like I don't know. And it makes it easier, especially if you know this won't be the job of the lifetime. So where's the risk in admitting you don't know something, or you want to learn more, or you made a mistake? So I think showing up like a student for the rest of your life in every single job actually puts you on a path to learn more and actually build your confidence.
Yeah, it's interesting. So that really gets to my second question, which is your advice for young would-be leaders. People. There are a lot of young people who would love to sort of build the potential to to come into leadership positions, but they're just like leaving college. They were students that are leaving college, and they might feel, gosh, what do I know? What could I contribute? What advice would you have for them? And maybe it's similar to what you just said, but I'd love to hear your take.
Well, let us be clear on what a leader is, right? Leadership has nothing to do with rank. I know many people who sit at the highest levels of organizations who are not leaders. They have authority, and we do as they tell us because they have authority over us, but we would not follow them. And I know many people who are junior who have no authority, and yet they've made a choice. The choice to look after the person to the left of them, and the choice to look after the person to the right of them, and we would trust them and follow them anywhere. And so gaining rank inside the organization, achieving a leadership position, does not make you a leader. Choosing to be a leader, choosing to do the things that would make those around you rise, is what makes you a leader. Now, if you have a position of leadership, if you have a position of authority, and you make the choice to see those around you rise, you will become a leader. but you can be junior and make the choice to work to see those around you rise, including your own boss, and you become a leader. So like anything, similar to the answer I just gave, leaders must be students of leadership. The best leaders I know, people who also have positions of rank and authority, sometimes at the highest levels, still read books about leadership, still have conversations about leadership, still talk to other leaders about things they get right and things they get wrong. They are constant students. None of them are experts. I am not an expert in leadership. I'm a student of leadership, maybe more advanced than some, but I'm just a student nonetheless. And so if you want to be good at being a leader, you have to be a student of leadership. You've got to read books, you've got to read articles, you've got to watch TED Talks, you've got to talk about it with people obsessively, just like you would talk about anything you want to learn. So leadership, do not confuse rank with leadership. Leadership is the decision to see those around you rise and help them do so. Rank is just rank.
Yeah, I think that's a very inspirational message, especially to students, to younger people. You can find opportunities to sort of practice and hone your leadership skills anywhere. Frankly, it sounds like, from what you're saying, that you could do that while you're in school, actually, right?
Absolutely. I was in student government when I was at Brandeis, and I learned about politics, and I learned about backstabbing, and I learned all about egos. And it's a smaller microcosm of which the stakes are low. Although it feels high when you're in the middle of it.
Right.
But the stakes are low, and these are great places to practice. This is one of the great things about being junior. When you're junior, you're not going to bring down the whole organization, so you might as well practice being a leader now, because when you do have rank and authority, you can make decisions that will actually break the thing.
Yeah.
So you better be practicing before they give you that authority.
So in a sense, it's flipping it. Your junior status isn't a liability; it's an asset. It's like student driver, cashier in training.
Exactly, huge asset, because the opportunity, there's an expectation that you're going to get things wrong.
Right.
Any young person who claims they're getting everything right or is portraying themselves as getting everything right. If somebody was working for me and they were junior and everything was going well, either they're lying to me or they're not pushing themselves hard enough.
Yeah.
Right? So either one of those is not good.
Right.
So when you're junior and when you're in school, if you happen to have a position of leadership at a club or something like that, I met with so many people who just wanted to show off that they were in charge and wanted to take control of everything and wouldn't accept help from anybody. Those people are going to struggle in life. They really will. It's lonely and debilitating. But the opportunity to act like a leader, and that also means being a great follower. In the Marine Corps, when they evaluate officer candidates, who's going to be a good leader, they're not just looking for the person who's in the position of leadership to be decisive and take counsel from others, but they're also looking from those in the team to not only offer honest counsel, but if the leader makes a decision that is different to the opinion you gave, that you will work tirelessly to see that the leader's plan is successful. And if it's not, no one ever goes, "I told you so," but rather they rally to pick up the pieces and advance the group. In other words, good followership is exactly the same as good leadership. It's working tirelessly to see that your boss and their plan will actually succeed. And the practice of good followership is actually the practice of good leadership. So you don't actually need the position of leadership to practice being a leader. You have to practice being a leader to be a leader.
So you can really expand your toolkit, it sounds like, as a follower, as a leader, and that, in fact, having each experience informs the other in some ways.
Exactly right. And college and early jobs are the best place to do it, because the risks are so low. Yeah. The kind of a responsibility we give to our most junior employees, we expect you to learn.
Right.
And if it's difficult, that means you've got a good boss who's pushing you.
Yeah.
Say thank you. And if it's difficult, instead of lying, hiding, and faking, ask for help. Admit it. And it doesn't mean asking for help from your boss. It depends on your relationship with them. It could be asking for help from somebody in a different division or somebody who you work next to. But that practice, that social skill, engenders trust with people also. We do not build trust with people by offering our help. We actually build trust with people by asking for help.
Interesting. Well, this has been really interesting, and I think it's going to be very inspirational especially to anybody, but especially young people. So thank you so much for your time, for your insights. I really appreciate your being with me.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.